our next segment is the Shoot You Straight segment.
Yeah.
This is no bull. It's just straight shooting on today's hottest gun and political topics. It's time for the Straight Shooter segment. We have a lot of really cool things to talk about. Let's start with, all right. So Teen Vogue actually falsely claims that guns are the #1 killer of children. Now, this was a fact check article. Actually, where I got the article was from Breitbart, and I think it was our buddy AWR. Yeah, AWR Hawkins writes in Breitbart that the May 14th, 2025 article in Teen Vogue, I'm going to have to ask him about that. Maybe it's AWR's favorite periodical, Teen Vogue. It claimed that gun violence recently surpassed auto accidents as the #1 killer of American children. His verdict is this is false. AWR says that this claim only works if people of voting age 18 and 19 are counted as children. You know, we've talked about this in the past, how they take these statistics and twist them to their use.
What's interesting about this to me is that any number of children dying in the U.S. because of accidentally finding a firearm or whatever is bad. It's already bad and sad and horrible and tragic. So why lie and say something that's just not true? Let's actually talk about the real number, right? I think the number was like 2,281 if you just count 0 to 17. So let's talk about that number. That's a horrible number. Well, that's super sad.
It is super sad. And the reason it's important is you got to get the solution right. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, guns kill children, therefore let's ban guns. That's not what, you know what I mean? They're totally misprescribing the solution. Now, here are the actual numbers according to AWR. The total number of firearms-related deaths for people ages 0 to 19 totaled 4,368. This is in the year 2020. Motor vehicle deaths for the same age range 4,036. But let's see, the number of firearms-related deaths for children 0 to 17 was actually 2,281. So 4,368 is what the claim was, but it was actually 2,281.
Yeah, and I think that's significant to notice that in just 2 years, there's, just 2 years of ages, 18 and 19-year-olds, there were 2,000 deaths, right? So when we're thinking about firearm-related deaths, people often think about like a toddler finding a gun and how sad that is.
Yes.
That is super sad and it should not happen. However, that's, the numbers aren't right in front of me, but that's a very small percentage of this total problem. If we're looking at the total problem, 2,100 18 and 19-year-olds, had a firearm-related death. A lot of those were self-inflicted. Well, a lot of them.
But what's happening is, they're including 18 and 19-year-olds who aren't, what's going on in their life? Well, they're probably high school dropouts who have decided, hey, I'm going to lead a life of crime instead. They're criminals killing criminals or criminals being killed by criminals or killing other criminals. And by the way, these numbers, it's not like you can go, well, that's Breitbart, and that's AWR. These are CDC numbers.
Yeah.
Center for Disease Control.
Well, and it's self-inflicted and it's also gang-related, crime-related, all of that, right? So like both of those categories of firearm-related death don't hit the same way as thinking about a toddler finding the gun, right? The sad piece of this statistic is, the young kids and, unsecured firearms and all of that. Right. But when we're looking at these, kind of catchphrases or whatever that the media is using, it makes it sound like such a horrible problem. Like, oh my God, it's killed more people than car accidents. That's crazy. And it's like what's actually true is also sad and crazy. So let's just stick to the truth instead of lying to everybody with statistics that aren't even real.
And give it the right solution. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I could go on a whole long tangent about distorting statistics, but I definitely agree with everything the two of you have said about that if there's this problem that already exists, then making the problem appear worse artificially by sort of massaging the data or the way it's presented just removes credibility from whatever it is that person is already saying. I would also like to point out, and this is somewhat related, that this idea that we on the pro-gun side, pro-2A side, don't care about accidental deaths from firearms, especially from youth, is complete nonsense. A lot of really great effort has been made on the part of the NRA and on the part of the industry, on the part of the NSSF, which is actually paid for by the firearm industry
Yeah.
to more widely distribute cable locks for handguns and more widely distribute written materials about how to securely store firearms. Like, for example, when I worked at a gun store, when you came up to the cash register, right under the counter, right in front of where people were standing, were a set of little plastic holders for brochures from the NRA and from the NSSF talking about how to securely store your firearms. So this is something that, like, of all of the gun-related political debates, this should not be one. This shouldn't even be an issue.
I agree. And what's interesting is both sides accuse the other side of lying. But by and large, when the anti-gun folks accuse the Second Amendment folks of lying, it's about something subjective. Like, we'll say, like, guns help protect people, and they're lying. Well, it's not a lie. That's a perspective. That's subjective. Where when pro-Second Amendment people accuse anti-gun people of lying, it's something objective like this, where they say, children, guns are the most common, source of kids dying. And then we go, wait a minute, that is objectively false because an 18 and a 19-year-old they're not children. But I thought that was something that occurred to me, is the difference between the accusations.
And the people who are repeating this claim didn't even look at the study that it was based on, because
it fits their narrative.
Yeah, and it's not just Vogue Teen. It's lots of other people have said this. I know some people in the Democratic Party, I think Kamala Harris maybe had repeated this. It got repeated quite a bit.
Biden administration.
Yeah, so it's like, and then everybody who's listening to that on the news or hears that said, takes that home and tells their friends, my God, did you know this, fact? And so I've talked about it before, but like us not fighting back against false narratives that the media puts out is horrible for everybody. Like, we all need to be fact checking ourselves. Let's not share things that we haven't fact checked, right? As people, even on the Pro 2A side, let's make sure we're sharing accurate information, that we're looking at the sources of the studies, that we're making sure that we're, sharing information that actually is true and accurate. But let's also remind our friends when they share false things like this, hey, this was actually based on massaged data or whatever. But I think we all could do a better job of trying to stay focused on what's actually true and finding common ground. Like, I think both sides of this argument can agree that it's devastating when a child finds a gun and accidentally kills himself or their friend. So we agree on that. Let's talk about solutions that make sense. Cable locks, educating your neighbor who just bought their first gun and doesn't know anything about how to store it safely. Teaching kids from a young age, doing, the youth programs. The NRA has a lot of youth programs. There's a lot of youth programs around that need funding, need money. Support your local gun store. Donate cable locks to a friend that that doesn't have any. Be part of this solution actively, and we could actually make a difference in some of these negligent discharge cases.
I agree. And this is pure, it appeared in Teen Vogue. It's pure propaganda. I mean, I'm positive that there is not a single member of MS-13 who picked up their monthly edition of Teen Vogue and said, I think I am going to be more responsible with my stolen gun when I'm committing crime. Because this, anyway. Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media. And check out our website at gunownersradio.com.